Goodfellas, I'm in Birmingham today and I'm so happy and proud to be at the headquarters of Yardeled together with Emma Field and co-owner Giles English. Guys, thank you so much for having me here in Birmingham.
Samuel, well done for making it over here. There's not many people get to Birmingham, but you've done it, so well done. Thank you.
But it's been already worth it. Because, I mean, it's incredible what you have here, and I'm really happy and proud to do this interview with you guys. What I've seen so far has been really astonishing. So before that we start and go into Yardeled and everything related around Yardeled, I'd like to, for our viewers, to get you to know you guys better and to understand your background, because I think that adds up a lot to the brand and to our industry. So we're going to start, ladies first, Giles.
Definitely.
Emma, tell us a bit about we've spoken already about it, but I would like you to mention to our viewers, what's your background, watches, and even beyond that, we've spoken about it.
So my career was in watches. So I used to work for a watch magazine, QP magazine, and then launched Salon QP. I went from there into Montblanc, where I looked after their watches and obviously learned about pens. I then worked for various different horological brands before I took over Yardeled from my father. So my father ran Yardeled through the Filofax Group in the 80s and early 90s, sold Filofax Group in 1998, and then brought back just Yardeled about 15 years ago. And I took over about 7 years ago. And this year, Giles has joined me.
Fantastic. I mean, what a beautiful background. Filofax, very related to our industry, but also with a lot of experience coming from the watch industry, which has been rising in the last 30, 40 years. And Giles, there's not many introduction needed for you.
I think probably a lot, but
no,
yeah,
it's not true. We know that.
Well, obviously the watch industry connection, and that's actually where I first met Emma. But yeah, I, with my brother, started Bremont Watch Company 25 years ago, and built that up as a British watch company manufacturing full end-to-end in the UK, and it's been a long journey, and it's been really exciting. But before that, strangely enough, I tried to buy a pen company 30 years ago. I tried to buy a pen company. I won't say which one, because I've always loved pens, and I think going back, and watches is such a high-tech space. But I'd known Emma, and after I sold out of Bremont about a year and a half ago, had a bit of time on my hands, and still involved, but in a small way. And Emma called me up and said, "Look, Giles, we've known each other. Do you want to come and have a look at Yardeled?" And I walked in here, and I was blown away by it. It's so similar in craft terms, in a manufacturing elements to watches, old school watchmaking, proper old school watchmaking. But the fact that the history and everything that you've seen today is quite different, isn't it?
100%. I mean, I've been absolutely blown away also about what you have shown us, and what our viewers by now probably have already seen. So the documentary, and in case you haven't done yet, so go check out the wonderful video that we have done about Yardeled's incredible workshop. Before we get into pens, I'd love to have a bit of background also for our viewers. I often talk about the watch industry, collectors and people watching here. Some of them are into watches, they know about the watch industry, but some of them have no idea about it. So maybe you can give us a bit of your feedbacks about what the watch industry has been through. You guys built an incredible watch company. I love the whole story around Bremont watches and how it is connected to you and the experiences that you lived. So maybe both of you, one after the other, can give me a bit of background about how it has been to be in the watch industry in the last years.
I think I started the watch industry long before Emma did, because she's so young compared to me. But it was early days in the sense that there weren't any small new brands starting up. We were very new, and we were probably one of the first in that world. But it's exciting. But I remember the days of you could go on eBay and buy these old watches that are worth a lot of money today, and you're picking these things up for £300 or £400, and it feels to me this is like the pen world will be in the next 25 years. And I went to a pen show the other day, and all these lovely old pens, and trading for not much money. And I definitely see those similarities. And I think the watch world has come a long way. We don't need a watch on our wrist to tell the time, a mechanical watch, but the love of 86,400 seconds in a day and a mechanical watch, cogs and gears within 3 or 4 seconds accuracy when it left our workshop is what it's about. It's this beautiful made thing. And it's about the storytelling as well. It's a piece of art. And I think some of the limited editions we worked on over the years, working with Stephen Hawking Foundation or Bletchley Park to HMS Victory to Wright Flyer to these amazing projects where we raise millions for charity, and you're creating this work of art. You're putting wood inside this watches, etc., etc. So I think definitely those similarities, and I think we're living in such a disposable economy now. 2 billion plastic pens thrown away each year, and having something you buy that lasts forever is what always appreciated me, and the craftsmanship, and I think those parallels are very similar. And you've seen both sides as well.
Yeah, and when I reached out to Giles, it wasn't just for funding for the brand. What I really wanted for the brand was the excitement of what Nick and Giles bring, and what they built was phenomenal. Very few people have made brands to create a brand out of nothing.
From scratch, like that successful.
You can't mention many, that you can think of maybe Fever Tree. To mention it in the luxury industry, to build a brand, and of course there are lots of smaller independent brands, but Birmingham is a brand that people know, and that's an incredible achievement, and that's what I wanted to bring into Yard Lead. The history we have is unparalleled. We've got 200 years, we make everything by hand, the quality is absolutely superb. I think we both liken the brand to Breguet. It's really the classic pencil and pen brand, but what it needs is that excitement, which the watch industry does so well, and of course Giles does so well, and that's what Yard Lead needs.
And it's, we were talking earlier, it's difficult. It's a lot smaller market compared to the watch world, and every newspaper will have watch articles, very few will have pen articles. So it's a different world, but that's sort of where it was 30 years ago with watches. So we don't forget that, and you've said this in the past, so I know I'm preaching to the converted.
No, but it's important, Giles. It's very important that you are mentioning that, because sometimes I sound like a mad person, and now we have someone with such an incredible track record, and you, of course, too, Emma. It goes without saying. But I mean, someone like you mentioned, Giles, you built this incredible brand, and now even sold it from scratch. You and your brother, and now you're saying this of the pen industry that means a lot, I think, for all of us watching, and it really shows that probably we are into something, right?
I'm seeing pen collectors who totally resonate with me with the watch collectors, and I'm in the short period of being involved with Yard Lead, I'm old watch collectors and me saying I've never really thought of pens, but now getting into it quite quickly, and I think it's a very similar mindset. But I also think you are creating something beautiful, whatever it is. If you appreciate that in watches, why shouldn't you appreciate it in pens? And what I love as well, as I just came in today, Alex showed me this pen he's just about to get serviced, and he said, "Oh, this is a 1946 pen that we're just servicing for a client." I said, "How do you know it's 1946?" He said, "The inscription, to my beloved from 1946 written on the pen." And that's just the connections here. And what I love about Yard Lead as a brand, it's such an amazing history. Inventor of the propelling pencil, these amazing designs, whether as a Concorde or a Spitfire or an E-type, probably designed using a Yard Lead pencil, highly likely. And then the history of being in the centre of Birmingham, 120 odd pen companies in this small area around here alone, making 70% of the world's nibs at one point. And we're the last company surviving. And we've got to tell those stories, and we've got to connect. And that's what Yard Lead, it's always been here, and that's the beautiful thing. And you'll see from the videos that, and obviously you've seen it today, the parts, those machines being made, that's constantly been active, and Emma's done a brilliant job keeping this alive. We just got to tell the world we're now still alive, really.
No, but I think it's the perfect moment now to jump in, and I want to go exactly into what Giles just mentioned, Emma. The fact that you've been working on this brand in the last 10 years, and you've been actually, making sure that Yardoled stays alive in one sense. And I'm saying that because I know how difficult the last 10 years have been, because I've been in the exact same industry as you are. So maybe tell us a bit, how have the last 10 years been, and what maybe also have been the challenges for Yardoled? We mentioned it off camera, how much work there is behind making sure that such a workshop remains. But tell us a bit about your experience in that sense.
So it really is a passion. I do this because it means a huge amount to me, not only the pens that we make at the end of the day, but everybody that works here. People's fathers have worked here. It's a whole community that's being lost, and I think it's very, very important to keep going. We keep things at a very, very elevated level, as you can see, as we saw today. Everything's made by hand, every step of the process. Year after year, we could have cut processes, we could have manufactured elsewhere and sold things in. We kept everything in-house, and because of that, we end up with this really, really beautiful, unique product where every single one of them is unique and is different from the next one. So you really own your own pen and pencil. And keeping that going, especially as silver prices have gone up, when we went through Brexit, when we went through COVID, it's been incredibly difficult. But the market's still there for us, right? People still come and they buy their Yardoleds, they have their Yardoleds serviced. They want to keep that tradition going, and I think that's the most important thing of the brand.
Absolutely. And what I've seen today, by now, I've been extremely excited. Even for me that, I retail and communicate about writing instrument, and I kind of had an idea of the complexity that probably a Yardoled pen takes with it once you hold it in your hand. But then seeing it and seeing the passion and the sweat of people creating these incredible instruments is something that really takes your breath away, just as much as going into a watch factory and seeing the engineering part of creating.
And there's, making watches, we're doing it with very high-tech machines, machining to 3 microns, all of those elements to it. And you're doing some very complicated engineering. This is about craft more so. There's far more hand touching and finishing on a pen than there ever is in any watch. And that...
Wow, I love you saying that.
Because you're not machining. Yes, there's some hand polishing on gears of the top end watches, but you're mid to high level, there's very little hand finishing because you're doing it to such small scale. So it's about high tech, and that's what I love. The working with silver, you see the whole old school process of with jewelers, with jewelry making when you're working with silver and the complications around that. Our mechanism in our pencils. It stayed the same since we patented it in 1933. Exactly the same processes.
I'm going to stop you. 1822, the first propelling pencil.
Oh no, but our recent mechanism.
Okay.
So
okay. I'll give you that one.
So I'll say it again. So
it's not easy to cope around with all these dates.
So obviously we invented the propelling pencil in 1822, but the Yardoled mechanism, we've been making the same since we patented that in 1933, and that's exactly the same, and that's obviously where the name Yardoled came from, because you could fit a yard of lead within our pencils.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So it came up with this invention, this barrel where you could put all the leads in and they wouldn't break, which was revolutionary at the time. And that mechanism, we're still making exactly the same today, the same process, and it's quite special, and it works, and it's we custom make our own lead, so it's a unique size, but it's beautiful to write with. So you've got that to obviously the fountain pens and the chasing. When you see that chasing on pen, most people will think it's laser done, and very few people will ever think that there is someone hand hitting that with a chisel 5,000 times on a pen, a grand, and each pen has its own unique pattern, and depending on which pen maker has done that, and you're holding that, and it's lovely. And I think we've also had the challenges, and Emma was alluding to with the silver prices. They've gone up 40% this year alone. It is like buying gold now, silver, and that. But that also makes it special. And we aren't making plastic pens that will degrade over time, and that's why it lasts forever. And silver's lovely. It warms to your hand when you write with it.
It's a very soft. It's weird because it's a soft
It
material.
is
That's how we can
different.
chase it, because it is soft,
It
right?
gets
We
so
couldn't
soft.
chase anything
So
else.
this is one of the very important aspects of what you're doing here at Yardolet. The first feeling that you get is that it's that you're carving it out, eliminating material. You're not. You're actually just moving the material in some shaping it.
Yeah, and that is the same when we do our engine turning, whether it's our lines on our pencils or on the Lucky pencil, the different patterns, engine turn pattern. We're not removing anything, and so you want to keep the integrity of the strength within that, and that's what that is just a beautiful old art.
And I mean, while that's a very interesting thing, I think, while on the pen that you're holding with this incredible pattern, you can really see the handcraft and the fact that someone is doing that by hand. On for example, the Lucky pencil, it looks more machine made. But reality is, and I really want to mention that for example, Amy, that people have seen her on the video, she is doing that with a very human precision, and she's not following a line that is set on the barrel. Am I correct? She's doing that with her eyes.
So engine turning uses the machine. So each of these lines is engraved with the machine, but the lines are set up manually.
And she's turning that handle herself, and she's putting the pressure on to get the right pressure on the lines. But you get this amazing effect, and it's not laser done, which would be the only way to do something like that if you weren't using it.
It's very difficult to imagine if you haven't seen it or you haven't shown it to someone. So,
and back to the watchmaking side, we teach Birmingham School of Watchmaking. We show them how to do engine turning. So it's exactly the same as you would have done with old watch dials hundreds of years ago. But it would be vertically. Ours is custom built because it goes round on a pen. Obviously, no one does that anymore. But it's they're definite parallels. And Birmingham, we talk about. We're in the centre of the jewellery quarter. We were known for clock making around here. We're known for pen industry, gun industry. This was made in England, was basically made around here.
So we were mentioning the fact that Birmingham is kind of a La Chaux-de-Fonds of the pen industry, because a lot of things were, and unfortunately I have to say were, all been done here, right? So you were telling me, Emma, about the nibs, right? That all 80% of the nib production.
Quarters of the world's nibs in the 19th century were made here in Birmingham.
So how incredible is that? And if I am not mistaken, I've read the fact that the nib, as we know it today, was invented here in Birmingham.
Oh, I don't know if it was invented. I know it was pressed here.
Yeah, it was definitely the key part.
I've done a few researches, and I think one of the first, I don't remember his name right now, but so when I read that, which wasn't connected to the fact that I was coming here, but I knew I was coming here, I was like, imagine that, I'm going to Yardolet in Birmingham, where the modern nib was invented. Then obviously the internal mechanism, there was Waterman and Parker in the USA, which had a huge impact. But so incredible if we think about it, that Yardolet carries with it century-old know-how.
And I think our customers know that. And that's why they buy Yardolet, and that's why they come and they have their Yardolets repaired, because they understand that. And I think that's why we're selling to people who are connoisseurs. And so we have a pride in who we sell to. It's not people that don't understand. You have to understand this to want to purchase one.
And it's quite interesting with Emma being here, especially. There were 8,000 employees at the peak of the nib making around here. 90% of them working building nibs were women. There you go.
We have to thank the women if this industry is still alive, huh?
But also, sterling silver was, it's a Birmingham thing, really. Our silver production, we can see it out the window here, who build all of our custom silver tube for us. We have our hallmark, you'll see the British hallmarks.
It's UK silver, is that correct?
Silver, yeah.
To have a UK hallmark, you have to be British silver.
So, silver, sterling silver. But this is another thing that defines the Yardolet product, right?
And we always have our Yardolet hallmark going on. And on the hallmark for Birmingham, it's an anchor.
Yeah.
So even though we're the furthest point from the sea, you will always see an anchor on our sterling silver pens made in Birmingham.
How incredible. Since we're talking about Birmingham, about the know-how that goes into the making of your pens, we're talking here about a workshop, so very human-driven. I guess there are challenges in that regard. I think it's not easy to go out there or put on LinkedIn, we need someone coming into our workshop, help us. That's a whole know-how, right?
It's incredibly difficult. And, previous generations, it was people's children who worked here. Brothers and sisters worked here, and their fathers had been the foremen here before. It is a huge problem we have today, is recruiting the right people who want to work here, who want to learn the trade, and then go on to teach the next generation.
I sort of, I've been through it with watchmaking. There are no watchmakers. We put a apprenticeship training school in. Yes. You have to make it interesting and more sexy, and you have to pay well. You have to do all these things. You have to get the right people. And I think, as Emma said, it's totally right. It's not easy, but it can be done.
And Amy is the best example.
Yeah. And what's lovely, we have the Birmingham School of Jewellery Making.
So potentially you could draw people over here, but it's interesting what you're mentioning, Giles, the fact that it's important that it becomes also attractive from a brand and from an industry point of view, so that people are like, hey, have that proud of saying,
they want their pride. They don't want to be shut in a dark room, polishing and chasing. But if you are being interviewed, you're part of it, you realise the pleasure in what you're producing, suddenly you have a whole new level of pride. And I think if you've got I think with all this stuff, you need the right mindset to want to do it. And if you can find those people, it's a lovely profession. But it's not easy, and I think employing anyone, and this is where always the perception of luxury is that it's just rich people buying rich things. But what people don't understand is below that are companies like us making these things. And it's big employment. It's very good for the economy, and it's we're not getting 2p widgets made in China. We're doing it by hand in the UK, and that's very important for me and definitely Emma of sustaining that and keeping that going, and that's why you're making something so beautiful.
Absolutely, it's amazing. And when I see Amy, she mentioned her age. I don't know if I'm allowed to mention her age, but she's around 27, so very young, but so talented, and it takes years to get to that point. Gets talent also. I mean,
it's talent, right? Lots of different people have come through the doors.
Right.
Amy came through, and she's phenomenally talented at chasing. I mean, she makes these, which we looked at before, which are the Chinese New Year. She does this by eye, and these are different animals, which she, by eye, hand chases on a barrel. So it's not even drawing, it's drawing on a curved surface, and she does this with a hammer. She's got talent.
And I love that when you mentioned that, Emma, I was like, for a second, it really put me back, like, what? And it's the fact that they don't have a drawing on the barrel, and they're chasing on a drawing. They have everything in their head, and which also means that every single writing instrument, sometimes it's a bit a cliche kind of sentence, is unique. It actually is unique. Like
and recognizably so.
So that's also interesting. Each artist who chases one of those writing instruments, you can kind of recognize.
Alex will pick one of these up, and he'll say, 25 years ago, that was done by X. Because he'll recognise their own way of doing it, that's why it's so lovely. But but our job, and it's lovely you coming here, is to understand that what goes into that to produce it, because it's very easy to pick up something and go, oh yeah, that's pretty, but you think that there's tens of thousands of those made a year. That's not a limited edition, but we're probably only building 100 of those a year max. So it's tiny numbers. It's on each particular thing. So you are getting something incredibly special.
We're talking about Alex and the fact that he also had someone who taught him, and someone teach the person who taught Alex. So it's actually incredible. It reminds me a little bit to tailoring in Naples, right? Where you can kind of understand that when you go to Naples or London, of course, Savile Row, no discussion. These are the two poles, right? Yeah. But there is this. It's part of the DNA. It's in the blood. It's in the veins. The fact that they grew up in a certain way, and the environment kind of breathes that incredible craftsmanship. So that's also something incredible when you told me that. And I guess that's also one of the challenges. And I'm sorry, I want to mention about the challenges because I think you guys said that. It's important for the people to understand that these things don't just come out of somewhere, but there is a whole load of work to be made in order to ensure also the continuity and the future of the brand and of this craftsmanship, right?
Oh, for sure. I mean, the fact that we need to bring more people into this industry, as Giles was saying, not only to keep the industry alive, but then for it to carry on generation after generation. There is no manual, to learn every single part of this process and all of the intricacies when things go wrong or we get a slightly different shape of something, that all has to be learned by mouth. And we need to train up new silversmiths to replace Alex in a long time. We don't want to lose Alex anytime new.
Is he going? Yeah. And I think with that is if the demand, we can't just double the output next year. Yeah. This is such a slow growth process for us to increase that because it's such a manual, handcrafted process. We're not getting any parts, like I was mentioning all the jigs, 7 jigs required just for a new clip that were custom produced and doing. We're not getting that part outsourced and getting 5,000 of them done,
and then delivered, and then
and that's the beauty of it, really. And where we'll take it going forward, we've got to come up with new designs. We've got to develop the brand without ever going away from its past, and that's important.
So that's exactly where I want to step into. So one of the next things that are coming out is this lucky pencil, which we have ordered at Style of Zug. Of course, beautiful product, but what's even more beautiful, again, and what's more important is the history, the story behind the product. So mention us a little bit about the story of the lucky...
Well, we've got it here. So this was Leslie March's pencil. His wife gave it to him on their wedding day when he was 18 in 1934.
By the way, the picture of the wedding is right there, so how crazy is that?
It is crazy. Given to us by his brother, who's in his 90s last week.
Incredible. Sorry, I'm afraid to interrupt.
No, that's fine. So when Leslie went to war, he had this pencil in his breast pocket, and it caught a bullet, saving his life, and he carried on carrying it around in the war as his lucky pencil.
It's an amazing story, and it's called the Deco 34, the pencil, but we hadn't made it since the 40s or a very long time, and so we went back to the drawing board, redesigned it to come up with a exact replica. The original that was done in rolled gold. We've done it in silver and a gold plating that we're doing, a gilded finish on that. So we've made them in limited edition numbers based off his dog tags. So it's a lovely sized pencil coming in this sort of leather packaging. But it's such a beautiful story, and we're raising funds for his whole military charity as well. Very
nice. And listen, I have to tell you very sincerely the fact that a lot of our customers and viewers are into fountain pens. But, there's a but, a very important one. I think that pencils are currently highly underrated. Also because there's not many like the perfect pencil of Graf & Faber-Castell. I'm sorry I'm mentioning other brands here, but I'm trying to give a bit of context also to our viewers. The perfect pencil of Graf & Faber-Castell surely is a very cool pencil, a very nice pencil. But actually, it's one of the first times that I would consider buying a pencil. And if we think about it, writing with a graphite on paper, it's one of those very natural feelings, right?
It's how we learn to write. And it's very, very functional. If you're on a boat, if you're on an airplane, you write with a pencil because it doesn't leak, it doesn't smudge, it doesn't get drifted away by water.
When you're traveling, it's a sort of and I love my fountain pens, and I would always have those. But if I was traveling to, even meetings in my bag, chucking around, I love my pencil because you get really connected to it. And there's something about replacing the lead and the way you're doing it and going through the process. You really connect with it. I think, any person who's into their fountain pens should definitely have a pencil in the collection. And really, we are the number one pencil company in the world because we invented it. So the propelling pencil.
100%. And even for me, which sometimes I'm surprised, but I have to get into it and get into the right optic now of this item, which is this lead pencil, which honestly I'm not that used to. I keep on talking about fountain pens. Obviously, you do some marvelous fountain pens. We've sold quite a lot of them. You are known for your beautiful fountain pens. But this is an item that I would love to dive deeper, especially with Yarda LED, because of your background and the fact that you have a patented system, right? With the special LED mechanism. LED mechanism. So it's interesting, and you're bringing a new point of view within the industry, which is very interesting. And I'm gonna work on it because I like this view of this product, and I want to use it and start to get into that optic, which right now a lot of my customers are not. But this one I've already placed to some of our top-notch customers, and I've asked you specific numbers regarding that. So we're very happy about that. So now that we've talked about this incredible story of this lucky pencil, I'd really like to understand, and I'm sure also our viewers, where the brand is headed. So what are your plans? What does, step by step, of course, but where does Yarda LED would like to be in a few years? Not in 10 years, because we don't even know if we're going to be around in 10, right?
I think I mentioned it, creating new product when you're doing it all yourself takes time and investment. So there's a progression of what you're going to do now, and there's design changes just even in our current product we're slowly making to grow. We are this sort of hidden, amazing big brand in its own little way that next few years we've just got to tell people we're still around. We've got to show what we're doing. And it's not all about launching new product because a lot of people don't know we're currently doing our product. So there's a big element of just telling the world how beautiful our products are. We are mostly doing our own distribution, working with top-end retailers like yourselves around the world, and that's important. I learned that from the watch industry as well. It's not about just getting it everywhere and going to every country. We don't need that. And we've been in a beautiful position that we constantly get approached by retailers from around the world the whole time. But most of the time we say no because we can't just double our production anyway. So it's finding the right people who are going to love Yarda LED as much as we are, who will have great relationships over the next 30 years. So, I want this conversation with you in 20 years' time and saying, isn't it interesting our conversation we had back there? And that's what good retail in luxury brands is all about. It's creating products and getting feedback from customers as well. Until we've been out there, talk to the likes of yourselves, talk to customers who buy our pens to really understand what they want. And I'm very conscious that I've come into this business in a new. Obviously, Emma's had a large part of her life in this business. It's not reinventing the wheel. It's here and it's working. It's just little tweaks. And I mentioned before I'm a custodian of this company because this will go on forever, and we want to be part of it, but it will go its own way. And there's so much history within the business. I just want to tell those stories, and each month, week, another story comes out that probably you haven't heard as well. And a customer calls up and says, "I've got this pen, and blimey, I haven't seen one of those before." And just documenting the history of this brand is something we need to do. So
that's a whole work by itself already.
That's a Bible that thick and so there's so much we need to do. And I've seen it done very well in the watch industry, where the watch brands have literally gone back to square one and built their collections, their historical museums up. We need to do all of that because we've lost a lot of that over the years, but it's all out there. We just need to bring it back in. So busy buying up old pens off eBay and that we haven't got in our...
You see the watch industry DNA comes out. I love that. Finally, there's this kind of discussions to be made.
Oh no, Giles is the biggest yard-led geek out there.
I'll help you buy off everything.
It is.
Giles.
It's definitely that.
If you're bidding against anyone on eBay, you're bidding against him.
It'll be me.
Okay, I'll give you a call before I bid. Okay.
It will be me.
No, but this is a very important. Okay, there's the brand kind way of looking at it, but we're also talking about the growth of the industry, because I think even as the yard-led brand, we can only benefit if the whole industry starts to grow and the awareness grows within people that appreciate fine craftsmanship. So it's also why I'm very happy that both of you are in this industry. I've been in the industry since, what is it now? 14 years, longer than that if I consider the fact that I kind of grew up into it because of my parents. And it's something amazing because you bring a point of view that is needed within the industry. And I could immediately feel by talking with you, Emma, and talking with you, Giles, how much incredible experience that you have and how much this also inspires me. And when I will be back in Zug tomorrow, I will keep and cherish also all of this information that I've gathered here at Yard-led. And one more thing that I have to tell you, and I want our viewers to know, first of all, it has been amazing to talk to your, I'm going to call them artists, of craftsmen, because they're really artists. And you can see how each single one of them is extremely committed to the brand, how they're passionate about the brand, how kind they were, all of them, each single one of them. That makes one more reason why one should buy Yard-led. And I'm sure and I hope that we will have the chance to bring selected few customers one day over here to show them what the reality is. Because this is real as it gets. It's not the shine that we're known from the watch industry sometimes, where they show you 20% of what's actually happening, right? This is the real deal here. And I told you from the first second I arrived, I love the realness of this place. It's actually happening. There's no secrets. I mean, there is secrets in terms of not secrets, but there is...
No, we're totally open. This is the most open company ever. Yeah.
Because you can try and copy if you want.
No, but you've got to have
the craftsmanship, you've got to have the tools, you've got to have the building.
I think that, while I'm talking, this is extremely emotional to think about it and to think what incredible, you mentioned custodian of the company. That's really what you are, and you have an incredible craftsmanship here within the house. So I'm sure that our people are gonna appreciate that a lot, and that over the next months and years we'll have the chance to explain more, show more insights and more behind the scenes for people to actually understand this incredible brand, which is Yard-led. We kind of briefly mentioned, and I'd like to have an answer from both of you, and you might be aligned regarding that, but so you actually see the potential for writing instruments. I mean, you see a need for writing instruments in today's digital era. What's your perception in that sense?
I definitely do. I don't think it's anything about writing. It's about having something that you want a story to tell. And you can buy, a variety of brands. And I think we support all the other brands in our industry. You choose who do you want to be aligned with, which story do you want to tell. Mm-hmm. Just like you used to take out a Bremont and you had the story to tell your friends. Mm-hmm. You could take out a Rolex if you wanted to, but there's less of a story to tell. We all know this story. Mm-hmm. There are lots of different brands, and when you start getting involved in this industry and the excitement of it, you can share with your friends those stories, and you can identify yourself through the brand that you buy. So I think there's a huge amount of growth in this industry.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think Emma sums it very well, and I think the key for me is you write far less, but when you do write, you want to really connect with it and you want to enjoy the experience, and that's why the pen industry will always be around. And yes, it's the top 5% of the market, but that's the industry we're in, and I think you get given that as a gift. You'll remember the person who gave it to you and the moment for the rest of your life, and there aren't many gifts you can give like that.
One last question. Giles, I'd like to ask you this specific question. is, and it's more a business-driven question. I'm always interested about, the products and so on, but with your incredible experience, I would love to ask you, what has been one of the biggest outtakes that Emma, you mentioned that he built Bremont in this way. It's such a big company, recognized all over the world with people who are really aficionado about the brand. What has been one of the biggest outtakes that you have taken as a brand owner and that you probably are bringing into Yard of Lead now?
I think probably with any business, one, you have to love it. You have to be genuinely passionate about it, because you can't pretend or lie over that. You have to wake up each morning with ideas and thoughts to go through. But it's a lot of hard work, and it's hitting the streets, as you have been doing so successfully with your store and talking about the pen world. And I think that is it. But I think the pen world is something I'm just getting into. But the watch world has some lovely people, and we made so many good friends over the years. And I think there's that shared desire and love for it. But I think, ultimately, the success of Bremont was lots of hard work and passion. And I think the same will happen in this business.
Emma, Giles, thank you so much for being so
Samuel,
open.
thank you very much for coming in.
And I can't wait to see further developments of Yard of Lead. And Goodfellas, at this stage, I would like to thank once again Giles and Emma for hosting us here and for being so open about everything around Yard of Lead. Stay tuned about the brand and the novelties that are coming out from this incredible brand. And also, as usual, don't forget that together we are changing the game.